to this week's Stopping the Violence webinar that we are pleased to share with you some of the extraordinary speakers that we've had on over the last 3 years. It is you who are new to us and those who already know us. The whole premise of this webinar is to really look deeper into what are some of the root causes of violence. Originally started from the founder, we affectionately call Mother Moon, or Dr. Haksham Moon, says we need to deal with gun violence in America. But we realize that gun violence and a gun is an inanimate object that stems into gun violence. But what are the root causes that causes people to pick up these inanimate objects and hurt, harm, kill one of their fellow human beings? What are the root causes of behaviors that are out there that leads persons into incarcerations? What are the root causes? So we have had several speakers that have come on and share with us, many of them from the community activists, from the court system, mayors, religious leaders. We have a diversity of types of individuals and organizations that have come on and just moved our hearts, and because they have shared with us the awesome tools that they have used that have worked, that has sustainable and measurable results. But today we have another guest, and I think this is the first one that we really had, really dealing with the arts, if you will. And it's our dear brother, Cleus, like Nucleus Cleus, Glory Young. But it's interesting because he spells Glory G-O-L capital W-R-Y. I like that. Quite young, quite unique. He's the founder of TEB-IT Foundation, IT Foundation, critically acclaimed, and you, Ismail, correct me, acclaimed author of the Airport Venture. We're looking forward to hearing from you, Brother Young, and how you have played a critical role in the healing of humanity, which plays a critical role in curbing violence in our country and in the world. So without any further ado, welcome to the platform.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we'd like to hear from you. If you could share who you are, your little bio, which is what brought you to this, and what are the things that you are doing in your life and in your career that is related to,
And the
violence and those type of things. But we're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. So starting off, I know what you just mentioned was the act of understanding my name. So it's Cleus Glory Young. The reason why I spell glory with a W is actually looking at the context of it, that Cleus actually means glory. The context of that, though, is everyone that names Cleus is going to get that same definition of glory. So I found a distinct way of identifying myself totally different from the other Cleus, and it was like, hey, spell it with a W. The capitalized W is actually in the context of asking God for wisdom. So when I started to understand that dynamic around your name and how your name can start to develop your character, so what I did, I actually now looked at my first name and I was like, okay, it means glory. To God be the glory. So it's like, hey, how do you now multiply this on the next level? And what I did now, I looked at it, glory, and then I identified now to put it in the middle of my name. And the context of that now, again, going back to the W, is asking God to give me the wisdom. to now do the things that I need to do. And that is actually in the middle of my name, which is now me centering around God giving me things from a wisdomatic standpoint to now address different things. So that's how that actually comes into play. Um, myself, growing up, I grew up in Jamaica. As a child, that's where I started life. Um, had a wonderful childhood. And it's ironic because now that I'm older, I started to see certain things that I was able to piece together. So growing up in Jamaica, as you talk about how do we help with humanity right now? So as a child, we used to have this, what you call pledge, which is actually a part of my presentation right now, where I showed the audience that, hey, when we were growing up, we were making this pledge when we went to school in the context of saying that, hey, we're pledging to make the world a better place. So day by day, as we went to school, this is what we had to pledge to. And in that context now, it was like when I started to understand as a adult now, I was able to go back to my childhood and realize that, hey, these were the things that you were pledging to make the world a better place. So it actually started from my childhood days. However, growing up in Jamaica now, our what is called athletic abilities mostly are expressed in football, which is the main sport. And as you know, track and field, we produce some of the highest and best track and field athletes around the world. So when you look at that now from a standpoint, I grew up playing football. Football for me was the outlet that allowed me to be creative in different areas, right? Ironically, I was able to now match it with my name. That's why I actually gave people the pronunciation of my name, Cleus, and I used the word nucleus. It's actually coming back from my childhood days of understanding playing football. I used to play in the middle of the field. The middle of the field is called the midfielder, and the middle now is associated with the context of nucleus. So when I give someone my name today and say, hey, my name is pronounced nucleus, nucleus is like the center, but that's actually coming from me understanding playing football and trying to see how I made the transition from football all the way to where I'm at now, which started out where playing football, it was like, hey, this is the ticket to get you out of whatever life you want, what you would say consider childhood adversity, or typically what they say, hey, you're from a third world country, so things aren't better for you than in the first world. So for me, football was that thing that I invested in saying that, hey, I want this to be the ticket that allows me to come out of this third world concept. So at a young age, what Caribbean parents typically do, they normally come abroad, work, and then establish themselves and then send for their children. So this is how I actually moved to America now. My mom came here and establish herself here first and then send for us the children, which was me, myself, my other older sister, and my younger brother. She sent for us to come and live with her here. The irony about that, she used to actually live in New York when actually she looked at the crime and violence that was going on in New York and saying that she didn't want her children to be exposed to these type of crime and violence. So what she actually did, she established herself in the Poconos. So that's where the platform started. Once I moved from Jamaica, I arrived here in the Poconos, and it was a decision that my mom made of not wanting us to actually be in a crime-filled area, which is like what she would say in New York. So I don't know if anyone have ever been to the Poconos. It's like this other place that people actually go and consider it like a vacation spot. So this is where we were able to leave Jamaica and come here. And that's where my journey here started. Come here, I was like, hey, I wanted to be the next Pele. And if I came here and got the right training, the exposed to the right people, the right opportunities, then that would allow me to become the next Pele. And growing up in Jamaica, this was like the childhood thing that many of us who played football actually gravitated towards. Just like here, someone playing basketball, they're like, hey, we want to be Michael Jordan. That's how we were growing up in Jamaica. We want to be the next Pele. So coming here and being in the Poconos, I started playing soccer, which it transitioned from football to now soccer. So in high school now, I was playing on the varsity team. We did very well, won the championship. For me, it was like, wow, this is my dream coming through as far as being the next Pele. And what I looked at after high school, I started to look at um, I guess what you would call an envision of your future of what you would be like if you became the next Pele. And to me, what I saw at that particular moment, I saw myself being celebrated as a celebrity that only has the ability to kick a ball into a goal. And this was the time where I don't know if you guys remember when there was this blonde stereotype that if you were blonde and you were a model, then what would happen is like that's all you can do in life. You don't have any sense, you're not good at anything else, you can just model and that's it. So when I actually look at it and I envision like, hey, you're gonna be this celebrity and the only thing that people are gonna think about you is that, hey, your life could be like someone who's just kicking a ball in a goal and that's it. And to me, that didn't resonate with me. So from that day, I gave up my boyhood dream of saying I didn't want to be Pele anymore. And from there, it has been 25 years since I've been on a journey of looking for something more significant out of life. So walking away from playing soccer, I started to actually getting into writing. And I published my first piece of work in an anthology back in, I think this was like 2002, where I published my first anthology, poetry in an anthology book. And that's what got me to start gravitating towards now moving away from the athletic ability to now get into the creative arts with my own concept. So I started to express myself from a poetry standpoint, and from a poetry standpoint, I started to push myself to new possibility. And then what happened now, I started to craft into now, hey, it's a poetry. Now I'm writing short story. And from the short story, it was like, hey, what else can you do? And I started to push myself again. And then before you know it, I wrote my first book. And the way I wrote my first book, it was just looking at the poetry that I actually wrote, and that from that poetry, it transitioned into a short story. And then at that point, I was like, hey, this could be turned into what is called a chapter book. At that point, I didn't have no experience to actually write a book. And I kid you not, I started praying and asking God to give me the wisdom and knowledge to do it. And within a week, I wrote my first book. And that's how my journey now moved from just writing poetry to now writing short story to now writing books. And that's how it transitioned from me now saying, oh, I don't have to play football to get myself into this concept of saying that, hey, I could be something substantial in life. And that's where I started to now work on my creativity around this concept of writing. So writing books now, it allowed me to start getting into the community where it's like, hey, you're participating as an author, someone is asking you to come out here and speak. And when I started to go into the community now, that's actually how I started to see the social issues that were going on in the community. So it's like, hey, you're invited to come out and speak at this school or at this church or at this community event. While you're going out there as being an author, what it allows you to see is to see the different things that are going on now and what people are having challenges with. So from there now, I started to look at it not just to write, but to craft certain things in addressing social issues. So I started to get into now writing plays. So I started to write plays now, and the plays now I started as a social issue. The biggest social issue I took on at that particular time was bullying. So I would write a series of bullying plays, and the more I did them, is the more I realized, like, wow, these are things that I wasn't aware of that was actually impacting people. And I started to look at it now. It's like, hey, you're writing plays about bullying and stuff like that, but what else can you do? And what I started to do now, I started to transition into different things like, hey, people can actually learn not just from a theatrical standpoint, they can learn from a workshop as well. So I actually developed a workshop around bullying. And when I started to go out and teach that now, what happened, it started to become an eye opener. And from there, it was like transitioning now from just writing the plays to now doing the workshops. And then what I started to look at it was like, hey, people can learn in different aspects. They can learn from a play, they can learn from the workshop. And then what I started to do now was creating activities. So now it was like I didn't have to do a hour-long workshop. I could create an activity and we worked through the activity. One of the activities that I created was called ping pong. So I could show you how playing ping pong was the battle between the bully and the victim and the bystander. So that's how I usually develop these activities where it's like now I'm showing people from a different angle. And from there, it just started to now come into the concept of how can you be creative in a way that you actually address social issues from a different angle. So going back to that ping pong, I remember, I think his name is Andel. It's called, um, I forgot the name of the song, but it has this theme around it where it's talk about peace. So what I did, I developed the ping pong for peace. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ping pong for, and that's how now I started to incorporate more than just saying, hey, we're playing a social issues. We're now looking at it from a spiritual standpoint. Again, ping pong for peace. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The hallelujah part was looking at it that you're now bringing in this spiritual context to address the social issue. And we started to play ping pong for peace. I invited families to come out, and it was like we're playing, but at the end of the day, what was being done at that particular moment was actually showing you the context of bullying from a whole different standpoint. And how did I come up with that concept? I learned it from the Karate Kid, where he was getting trained wax on, wax off, and he thought that he was just being learned how to wash a car, but eventually it was like, hey, I'm teaching you how to defend yourself. So I took that concept and I put it in for ping pong for peace. We're playing ping pong, and you think that we're just playing a game, but I'm showing you the dynamics of what actually makes up the whole context of what is called bullying. And just by me actually snatching the ball out of the activity, it actually stops the entire bullying process. So I showed it from that standpoint. So from there, it's like people wanted me to come out and show these things, either the play, the workshops, or the activities that I would develop. And from there now, I started to get a better understanding that life wasn't just about you. It's like, what is it that you can actually do to help others? And from there now, I started to look at it. You know what? I need to go back to school and learn how to do certain things when you're talking about advance in our community. So I went back to school, and from there I learned my major in human services and psychology. Human services, how do you service the human being? Psychology is how do you understand the human being? So from there now I started to understand human beings from a service standpoint and also from a developmental standpoint. And this is now how I started to now go back into the community and started to look at different things that I was able to do now from a humanistic standpoint. Hey, I know this is how you develop. Hey, I know this is the type of services that you would need. How do I put the two and two together? And that's how I started to now really look at it, not only just saying, hey, you're developing an activity out here, but you're actually understanding the root of what's going on in our community. And after school, this was a shocker because after I left school, I left on what is called a devastated standpoint. Like I went back and I was learning about the community. I was learning about the development of human beings from the cradle to the grave. But there's also this spiritual context of if you're able to put two and two together. And it was like understanding now that there was more that was going on in our community than we have been previously taught. And the context of that is like I left school very devastated, seeing that I was able to see these things from a spiritual standpoint, where it's like I remember I graduated from school May 2016. May, June, July, I called my mom and I told my mom that I never want to do nothing with the community anymore. And this was all the things that I learned in school. Like, again, if you're able to put two and two together, and I could tell you the same people that are on your team, like literally building your team to go impact the community, those are the same people who will now stab you in the back or do something to really make the mission not prosperous. So when I started to learn these things now, I started to look at it from a standpoint of now what is called the behavior context of who we are. And this was a light that really came, just as I just said, the same people that you're building with are the same people who are behind your back. Because at one point after college, I was building this concept around bullying now. Like it's a very dynamic thing that I was doing around bullying now. Had a partner at that particular time. There was a person, I live in Pennsylvania, particularly Philadelphia. There was someone who was in Jersey who heard about my work and brought me in Jersey to come and do some work for them around bullying. I made the context of where I said, hey, I'll come there and I'll train your parents and teachers on the concept of bullying. If you like what we do, what we can do, we can partner up and take this on a national level. Why? Because I know that no one else is doing things like this. I went to Jersey, I did the training. They fell in love with the training, even from the surveys that they took from the parents and teachers, like it was overwhelming the things that they said. So we decided now to say, hey, we're going to partner up. And what I found out later on was one, this partnership was not accurate. It was like, oh, I'm not partnering with Cleus. They went to the school district to get a contract from the school district and not issue it as a partnership, more as they're going to actually invite someone to come in and present. And when I found out about that, I was like, wow, I decided to take myself away. But that was something devastating. And then I had a business partner at the same time, right? That we were coming together to actually do the contract. And the business partner, I found out that was doing things behind my back. So from looking at it from a transition of the business, trying to get the business done, and these people were doing things behind my back, my business partner was doing things behind my back. It came to a point where, yeah, I learned psychology in school, but it came to a point is like my life crashed, and crash is that concept of what is called depressed. So I went through this depression because it's like I didn't know how to deal with it. It's like your best friend, your partner in crime is like they're doing things behind your back to crash the mission. And then now you're pitching an idea that you hope will help you to get out of the slum that you're in. And then here's it that the person is looking to steal your idea. So it's like these things combined together. Like really, for me, it was the first time I experienced that. So it was like I didn't know how to cope with it. And what happened, I ended up crashing. Crashing is the context of what they call depression. So I went through a mild depression. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping right. And my thinking was not that right level. But somewhere along the line, I could tell you this. Something came in my spirit and introduced me to the airport concept. And what happened, it told me specifically what to do, and I did it. I just followed it. At that point, I was like at the lowest point of my life, didn't know what to do. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna follow the spirit. And I followed the spirit, and it showed me something in the aviation industry and told me what to do. I followed it, and I kid you not, within 2 weeks, I went from mental depression to what I would say mental aviation. It's like my mind went on a whole nother level, and I started to see life from a whole different level. Now I'm looking at it, oh, they didn't do these things behind my back. It was like, oh, I'm glad they did it, because now it walked me into an experience now where I saw the aviation industry as a totally different concept. And the first thing that led me to that was that spirit. And from there, of seeing how my mind transitioned from being low to high, I started to look into the aviation industry now, like, hey, what else is in there that could actually help me? And within the last 7 to 8 years, I've been studying the aviation industry, doing experiment, researching all these different things of understanding the aviation industry from a totally different angle. And what I was able to do now, I looked at the aviation concept and then I started to apply it to social issues. And within the last 6 years, I've done conferences, workshops, plays, written the books in the context of understanding the aviation industry and then applying it to social issues. And within the last 6 years, I've never had someone who came to the event and said, hey, I was aware of that. Or, hey, that is boring. It's always insightful in a way that they have never looked at the aviation industry to address their social issues. So that's what I've been blessed with. And I've been taking the privilege to now look at the social issues that are going on and correlate it through the aviation industries and then find solutions now to help people to get to what is called a better destination. And there's nothing on the planet that actually helps people to get to a new destination than the aviation industry. 4.3 billion people annually travel to their destination safely because of the aviation industry. So understanding that now, I was able to understand, hey, these things that are successful over here, if you apply them from what is called the aviation concept to the social issue, it's the same thing it will do as in how the plane takes off and actually go to a new destination. And this was a phenomenal thing that I found and discovered. So it was like looking at it now, I developed what is called the Tebbit Foundation. Tebbit Foundation specializes in the concept of universal safety. Where did I get that concept? If you ever go to the airport, the priority of the airport is safety. Once people are safe, they're able to now, not only just from a development standpoint to get to a new destination, that's the same thing for the plane as well. So the airport prioritizes safety as their priority so they can get the passengers to their destination. So when I set up the foundation, the Tebbit Foundation, the concept was, how do you teach people how to get to a new destination? So TEBIT actually stands for TEB hyphen IT, the Educo blend in teaching. Educo, I didn't use the word education. Educo means to edu someone, meaning that you're going to bring the thing out of the person. So understanding that it was like, hey, let's now bring things out of people. And then what's going to happen now? You're going to allow them to get to a whole new destination with their life. So this is what I've set up within the last 6 to 7 years. And to me, it has, when I tell you, it has significantly changed my life in how I actually view society. And because I have that change perspective in mind, when I sit down to create either a program, a play, or activities, that's the change mindset that I'm actually coming with. And over the years now, it has allowed me to not only do work here in Philadelphia, I've traveled to New York, Delaware, Florida, Jamaica, different places where people invited me to come out and address different social issues. And to me, the point of where I'm at now, I transitioned from bullying to now where I started to deal with trauma and mental health issue, which is coming from the background of where I came from. It's like, hey, I was depressed. And that moment of what got me out of it was the aviation concept that came as an insight for me. And for me, I was never looking at the aviation concept that it could be something that's practical to help people with their social issues, where literally you can get to a whole new destination with your life where you're not plagued by these crime and violent things that have been intentionally placed in our life. So this is my story, and what I'm developing now, I'm developing what is called a platform. It's called Hash Wednesday Forum. We're getting ready to debut it next week. And the concept is coming from like Ash Wednesday. You know, Ash Wednesday as a regular religious holiday. It has to do with the communion of God, where you commune with God. So we have developed what is now called Hash Wednesday. Hash means how do you hash things out in your life so you could actually now start getting to the destination that you need to get to. And going back to the aviation industry, I learned this from the concept of what is called baggage. When your baggage is overweight, then they charge you more, and it puts the airline into a critical point where it could cause damage not only for yourself, but for others. And the correlation was, oh, so if you have a life and you're filled with baggage, it's the same thing that's going to happen to your life. You're going to crash, you're going to cause a devastation for your life and a devastation to others. So now we use the concept of showing people how if you don't pack lightly, then you're going to be a catastrophe not only for yourself, but for others. So these are things that I've been able to do over the last 6 and 7 years that have made a tremendous difference in my life. And because I've made a difference in my life, now I'm just relevant in sharing these things with other people. So that is the context of what I've done. That's how I contributed towards crime and violence, where it's a different perspective, but I'm telling you, it gives me joy, it gives me happiness, it gives me fulfillment on a day-to-day basis just to have a different perspective. Coming back again, coming from college, graduated, very devastated because I've seen that everything that we've been doing, it's almost like doing the same thing over and over again, and we're not getting to a new destination with the things that we've been plagued with. Crime and violence, this has been going on for centuries. So it's like, hey, what can we do that's a little bit different that now allows us to now go to a whole new destination? And I'm telling you, I've never seen nothing on this planet that have been able to take people to a new destination than the aviation industry. And that's why I've fully studied it, understood it, and then now started to make a life out of it where I'm now helping others to get to a whole new destination with their life. So that's the context of my overall gist of who I am.
Oh, thank you so much, Cleus. I just want to confirm, everyone, another brilliant, brilliant presentation. Am I correct, everyone? You are a testament again to the several people have come on, and that's why when I hear you, I hear the other people have come on, and they have, I always call them silos of their own, no man islands, but they have this wonderful and awesome platforms that they have created that are sustainable and works and has worked. But they're here. But when I hear them, I hear that they need Cleus. Cleus might need them, just not because you don't have something, it's that it might help you expand over here or them to expand over there. So this is what we have found that we want to do with this particular platform. I want to thank you so much. Such a brilliant presentation. Let's give him an applause and clap for him and his brilliant presentation today. I have two questions and I'm going to open up the floor. I
Sure.
would like to hear just really briefly, because we have other people, I'm quite sure, that wants to ask you a few questions or make some comments. And that is, I think it's brilliant. I can catch the a glimpse of what you mean by the bullying. But I wanted to know, how did you, example of the bullying platform that you created
Yeah.
in context with the ping pong, and now you call it ping pong like you guys
Ping pong
call
for peace.
from
Yeah.
football to soccer, but
Yeah.
you call it table tennis. So
Yeah. Yeah. Table tennis.
so and then the other one is this aviation platform that you have created. Some example of
Okay.
that changing someone that you touched live.
Okay, so table tennis or ping pong for peace. So if you look at it, it's one person on one side, right? And the other person on the other side. So you have the bully and the victim. Then you have a net, right? A net in the middle. So the bully has one side and then the victim has one side. The bully is a regular person on a day-to-day basis. The victim is a regular person on a day-to-day basis. It's only when they start engaging in each other now, then it's a bully to a victim. So something has to happen for that bully now to take into that concept where, oh, I'm not the normal person anymore. I'm going to turn into a bully. So that is the engagement now that creates with the ball. So once that ball is in the bully's court, something is going to happen where the bully begins to now look at that ball from a standpoint. Then what happened now, the bully is going to hit the ball over to what? The victim side. So the bully now has to find something to release that tension on. So when you start to look at it now, the ping pong concept is that, hey, if the ball comes in my court, something is going on in my court that's going to agitate me or trigger me now to release this tension on you. Again, they're a regular person on a day-to-day basis. They only come in contact when something is triggered and engages the both of them. So when you look at that now, it's the ball. Once that ball comes over the net and in the bully court, something that about that ball is going to cause the bully to be triggered internally. Once the bully is triggered internally, what they're going to do, they're going to cast the ball over to the other side. It's called hurt people hurt people. If you hurt me, I'm going to what? Hurt you. So when you look at that now, that's how I began to explain it now. And the referee now is the bystander that sees everything that's going on, right? So when I started to look at that now, the net, so you know in finances you have net gain or net loss, depending on what the bully lost, right? So when we start to lose things in our life, then it develop into this, what is called aggression. So the aggression from a body standpoint, anything that's too much, which is what aggression represents in a person's life, aggression, which is called a bully, aggressive behavior. So anything that's too aggressive now, the body goes into what is called secretion, where it starts to secrete it out. Excretion, I mean, so it starts to excrete it. So if you go in the sun and there's too much heat, then you start to sweat. It's called excretion. If you drink too much water, then you're going to pee. It's excretion. Then it's the same thing with aggression. So that bully, whenever something happens in their life and they start to lose things, the net loss, they start to lose things, lose things, lose things, then it starts to develop into an aggression. When that ball comes over now and something happens with that ball, then it triggers that aggression inside and it has to be excreted outside. So now you look at, you're not going to excrete this on someone your own value. You're going to excrete it on someone who is less. So you pick someone who is weaker and then you begin to bully them now. And that's the transaction now of what creates that avenue. So that's how I was able to do with ping pong and show people, hey, this is the bully, this is the victim, this is the bystander, the net, the ball, the racket, even the racket. When you start to look at the concept of racket, like what is racketeering in your mind? That's what's going to cause you to hit that ball going over. So I just began to break it down and people started to understand it. Then we had what is called Ping Pong for Peace event that we brought the family out to come out, and they were out there playing ping pong for games and prizes and stuff like that. But I turn it into a teaching lesson where it's like, hey, this is what we're looking at when you talk about the social issues around bullying.
Thank you.
Pertaining to the aviation concept, so I'll just give you a brief concept. So I don't know if anyone understand when that plane, you'll see it if you get on a plane and you sit down and then you hear the flight attendants saying the announcement, or you're on the plane sitting and you see someone come on the plane, they give the flight attendant the paperwork or something like that, and then you'll hear the flight attendant says, hey, the door is closed. What they're doing in that process, it's called weight and balance. So all the passengers, the fuel, the suitcases, whosoever's on the plane, it has to be weight and balance. And the reason for that, because they know that, hey, if they make it imbalance, what's going to happen as soon as that plane take off, it's going to cause a catastrophe. So what they do before they take, every plane takes off from that runway, it has to be weight and balance, right? Otherwise, you create what is called an imbalance, which is if you go to an airport and they tell you, hey, your suitcase is overweight, this is the reason why they're telling you. Because if they put too much pounds on the aircraft, it's going to create a catastrophe, meaning that, hey, it's not balanced, it's imbalanced. And a perfect example of this was Aaliyah. When she passed away, her flight had too many suitcases on it. So in that context now, let's translate it. Coming from a psychological background, I know that, hey, if you have imbalance in your life, then what's going to happen? Your life is going to crash. If you're out here, you're smoking too much weed, that's an imbalance. If you're drinking too much, that's imbalance. So anything that you're doing overwhelmingly, it's going to create an imbalance in your life. And what's going to automatically happen, your life is going to crash. So again, going back to my story, remember when I actually went to Jersey to have that partnership, that person was what? Deceiving me from a standpoint. Then I found out that my friend was deceived. That was too overwhelming for me. Imbalance. It created an imbalance in me. What happened? I crashed. It is called depression. So when I started to understand these concepts now and realize, hey, I need to balance out my life. So for the last 6 years, that's what I've done. I've learned how to balance out my life. That's why you'll never see me doing one thing too long. It's like I spread it around. I can do the workshop, I can do the theater, I could do the activities, I could do the speaking. I balance my life around where I'm not taking in one thing too much because I know that it's going to create some type of imbalance, and that imbalance is automatically going to crash my life.
Thank
So
you
that,
so much.
yes.
Thank you so much. I want to get to, thank you very much. Great explanation. And I'm quite sure others will want a little bit more embellishment according to their questions or answers or comments to you. Thank
Sure.
you again. How about Wayne? Wayne first, and then after Wayne, James Parker. You can come on.
I really enjoyed your story and the analogy of using the aviation industry to our spiritual journey. There's so many things, and you spoke about a few of them. There are so many people when we go on an airplane that are part of us getting on the airplane and getting to our destination. The people at the ticket counter getting a ticket, going through security, the people at the boarding gate, the mechanics that readied the airplane, that refueled it. So many people behind the scenes we don't know. But that's exactly what we're doing in life. We have people that are helping us in unseen ways toward our destination. And just as the pilot is the central figure in our life, he's most important person. If he falls asleep at the wheel, we're in trouble. And the person in the control tower, he could be likened to God because he gives guidance. He tells that plane how to land, when to land, what runway to go on. And if the pilot follows that direction, you come to your destination safely. So there's so many comparisons in our spiritual journey and wanting to get to a destination through the aviation industry. It was a beautiful presentation, very creative. I really enjoyed it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I'm coming from a psychological background, and I'm telling you, I've never seen nothing like this before when you talk about the aviation concept. I couldn't bet my entire life on it. So what you're talking about, let me just give you a small biblical context. So God created man, and then he blew breath into man, right? To give man life. Breath is what is called air. So in the context of who we are, the body is a port, and the air that comes through your body determines what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's also what leads you into what is called survival mode, which is what in psychology they call fight, flight, freeze, right? That's because the air quality changes and the body is able to detect it if you're in a threatening environment. And literally, when people start to understand these concepts, and I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like this. Like people say, oh, it's a metaphor. No, it's not a metaphor. It's literally, if you understand that plane and the four forces that are used to get that plane off the ground, and then you understand those four forces and apply them to your life, the same thing is going to happen with your life. So I started to look at it and saying, hey, you know, they have this question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So when I started to look at it, I was like, hey, what came first, the body or the airport? So if the body came first and then the airport is a replication of entirely what the body does, that means someone have studied the body and then decided to develop this concept now called an airport, where we physically go places. But before, it was designed for the body, which is called astral plane, right? You can sit here and your spirit go to a whole new destination. That was the concept. When I look at it, I was like, nobody's teaching us this correlation between the airport and the concept of who we are. And it's like, it's not a metaphor. It's your real life. Somebody understood and placed it into a business transaction now and charge your arm and a leg to get to here. Telepath. Before you were able to say, hey, let me think of somebody from here around the world, and that person calls you. That's the same thing with the airport. It just connects to a whole nother country and said, hey, let me get there. And going back to the tower, I've analyzed it where the tower is like, oh God. And notice all airports there, the tower is always higher than the airport itself. That's God. We have to communicate with God in order for us to take off in life. So when I started to see the correlation, I was like, wow, nobody has taught us. Guess what I'm going to do? I set up the foundation. It's called the Educo Blending Teaching. That's what Tebet is all about, teaching you. So now what I started to do was take the airport and bring it to the community and allow the community to enjoy the things that God gave us first. Like this was our natural ability. We could have gone to a whole new destination without even leaving the body. Astral plane, that's what it's called. Funny enough, plane, right? So when you start to understand it, just as you just mentioned, Wayne, it is the context of who we were way back when. Someone just studied us, the body, and then said, hey, let me put this into a business plan and call it an airport. Your life, your body is a port, and without the air, your body will not be alive. So when people say airport, they see it from a physical standpoint. When I say airport, I look at it from the air that travels through your port, and with that air, it determines everything that you do, your crime, your violence, everything. So one point I was able to have a good conversation and interview with a flight attendant. What's the difference between the quality of air that's on the airplane versus the quality of air on the ground? And I'm telling you, the person said, hey, this is a higher quality of air on the airplane than on the ground. Why? because you want people to breathe in good quality air while they're 33,000 feet up in the air, so they don't go into what is called a survival mode and create a catastrophe. So
Yeah.
this is not, listen, there's science behind this whole industry that they put in place. So when you're cold on the airplane, it's not, if you're hot, you get heated, right? Now you want to fight. So they make you cold. Why? So you can calm down. This is science behind the aviation industry that if you don't study it and understand it, you won't know what's going on. You'll just think that you're taking a plane ride and that's it. So these were the things that, going back to my name, Glory, I asked God for the wisdom of things that I needed to now help our people. I went to school and realized that the academic alone couldn't help.
So
So
we
now I had to get spiritual wisdom.
yeah, we have a couple more people
Sure.
want to come on. Thank you so much. You're doing a brilliant job. James Parker, and then after James Parker, Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you for that. I was always wondering, how did my bag get on another plane? And I think when you just explained the weight, they probably took bags that was overweight over to that plane.
Yep.
And that's why your bag is in Colorado and not in Atlanta where it's supposed to be.
Yep.
But thank you for clearing that up. Also wanted to say thank you for, your out of the box thinking. Most people think that they got to come up with something for God to use them, but God has already used us of what we already know. You knew soccer, you knew ping pong, you knew those things. Now it's how do I connect it with the spiritual life to do things? Most people don't make that connection. They try to get spiritual instead of understanding they're already spiritual. And like you said, we are an airport. Well, that's found in Revelation chapter 4, verse 1 through 2, where he heard a voice in heaven and he saw a door open in heaven. He said, come up here. And then verse 2 said, immediately I was in the spirit and up at the throne, meaning he didn't die. He just transcended into what he was already. Nobody was just teaching it. And you find that in Job, where the sons of God was present before the Lord in heaven. Once again, showing that they went up. Jesus was carried away by the devil up to a high mountain. He was spiritual. He didn't carry his weight. Once again, all this is in the Bible, like you're saying, but who's going to teach it? Because nobody's going to believe it. So, we think Superman can fly and he ain't even real. So what about us? I'm just saying. But thank you for you being able to bring that all together through what you know, because if you know it, can't nobody take it away from you. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Madeline, then you can respond. Dr. Madeline, welcome to the platform.
God bless, and I'm going to be brief. Thank you so much, my brother, for sharing your experience. I commend you for the work that you're doing. You said no one else had put this into place. No one else understood it. God was saving you for such a time as this. This is what I appreciate about your story. When you're on the plane, they tell you about if you lose oxygen, the little cup is going to come down. They say service yourself first before you help anyone else. When you talk about psychology, we need to be well. We need to be whole before we go into the community or try to assist someone else. Brother, you got that cup, that oxygen, and you took a deep breath and you went into a place of internal healing before you went out into the community. So it's just as you said, those that you encountered that it felt like a betrayal, they were setting you up for a purpose. So it's all well for such a time as this. Thank you so much for sharing with us on today.
Thank you.
And I go through the airport, the experience will never be the same.
I'm telling you, someone decided to study who we are. And I have actually a diagram where they show the body and the plane. And I'm telling you, it is so identical. So somewhere along the line, someone studied us and like, hey, let's put this in a business. And now it's like people come there, the only version you have seen was, oh, get on the plane and then go here. No, it's like, understand that this is what God made us in the beginning. The vessel is the plane. And if you just stand up, I just came back from Brazil and I went to visit Christ the Redeemer statue. Look at this Christ the Redeemer statue, how it's stretched outward. And then look at the resemblance of a plane standing up and realize it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You want to see the other concept? We all have, as Christian, we have the cross. It's the same thing. So when you start to understand these dynamics, right? And then if you look on the navigation system, east, west, north, and south, it's the same thing. Cross again. When you look on a plus sign, it's the same thing. So when I started to understand these dynamics, I'm like, all right, this is what they have used to build the aviation industry, one of the most successful industry. So I started to learn it, and it's like, hey, let me bring the airport to people. Funny enough, I'm from Jamaica. Back then, I couldn't just run to Jamaica to go get the stuff that I needed, right? So somebody came up with the idea to say, hey, let's create some Caribbean stores here in America where we can bring the Jamaica products into the store so they can just easily go to the store. Once I understood that, I was like, oh, so what I need to do, build the airport concept and bring it to the community. Why? Because half the community would never go to the airport. So you would never figure this thing out. And then the other half that goes there, they don't even know this concept because all they see it's just from a physical standpoint. I'm going to get on this plane and go here. There's a spiritual component to it, and that's what I've discovered.
Thank you so much. We're coming soon to the close. I have our director and president, Reverend and Dr. Michael Jenkins. He's on, and he might want to share a few words with us or ask you a few questions. Dr. Jenkins, welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Oliver. I am so pleased with stopping the violence. And Dr. Young, thank you for your sharing such a very delightful and deep journey with us, especially discovering in life that we're not just supposed to live for our own happiness, live for ourselves. The greatest thing and greatest thing we can do and the greatest joy that can come to us comes when we live for others and we help others. That was beautiful. And congratulations, Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander, to you and your husband for him getting his doctorate and for you supporting that. And I know you already have your doctorate, and he had another one, I believe, but you're outstanding leaders. Dr. Oliver, this is the best program. I'm very, very encouraged. We are now working with Dr. Oliver to bring your leadership, Dr. Young, with others who are doing so much and coming together and multiplying and supporting one another. So I'm just grateful to be a part. Thank you, Dr. Oliver.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on, everyone. My brother, Cleus.
Yes.
Young, Glory. Hallelujah.
Glory.
I'd like you just to, before we close, if you want to say a couple words, you have.
So this has been me in the last 6 years of discovering this. The work is easy. You know, the hardest part in my life in the last couple of years is just finding people collectively to say, hey, let's go do the work. The work is easy. I understood the concept of the airport. When you go through ticketing, TSA, to the gate agent, to the pilot, the flight attendant, it's all different industry coming together to get the passengers to their destination. Most people wouldn't even know that TSA has nothing to do with the airport. They're government agency that are assigned to say, hey, I'm going to help out with the security so the passengers could get safely to their destination. The people in the back room, they do the same thing. Hey, I'm going to play my part. The people on the floor, catering, they're like, hey, I'm going to play my part. That's always what it was, playing your part so we can get the people to their destination. And I've figured that out. For me, what can I develop at the highest level? and then now find someone who is going to be either the TSA, the ticketing, and then we partner to get what? People to their destination. And that has been my hardest struggle. I kid you not. The work, listen, I could close my eyes and write a book. I have over 10 books written. I could close my eyes and write a play. I've been writing from I was young. However, the context of really finding genuine people to really make a difference in the world, that has been my struggle. It's, listen, man, the community isn't dying because we have good people out there. The same people that you're sitting here and say, hey, let's plan this and do this together, they're the same one is going to go back and do something to jeopardize it. So our community is not suffering because people are out there shooting and abuse. No, it's the good people that sit there and laugh with you and be like, oh, this is good. And then behind your back, they're doing something else to jeopardize it. And it shows up in our result. When you look at the community, it's not failing because of the people who are doing the crime and violence. That's not the community that's failing. It's the people who are in the good places that are doing the crooked and evil things. And that's why we're looking at what we're looking at today. And to me, I just want to find people who want to make a difference in the world. It's no hidden agenda. It's like, how do we come together and make this world a better place? No hidden agendas. We can do it. And until we get to that point, then we're always going to be struggling individually. And God knows it.
Well, thank you so much. I believe and I hope, and this is recorded, that I don't eat my words. And I don't plan to. I just put it this way. So you're in the right place. Hopefully you can join us. We had a conference where we were bringing the like-minded people ready to make a sustainable and measurable difference and put away all the crap, put the knives away and look for the sake of something greater than ourselves. And people don't think, even good people have good intentions, but that's a dime a dozen.
Thank you.
But if you are looking from the standpoint we're coming from, is that I'm doing it because it's something greater. I want to help with something greater than myself. Amen. So this is where we are. Our group also is under UPF, but it's called Stopping the Violence Stopping the Violence Best Practices Task Force. Stopping the Violence Best
National Best Practice.
Yeah, what is it?
National
Best Practice. Amen. Thank you. So we have a meeting. So we look forward to talking with you. I'd just like to enclose this one point about the airport. Who started it? As you know, God started it. Mm-hmm. And what he did was he told man, you want to fly? Just watch the aerodynamics of my birds.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes.
And he started.
Yes.
And we've been on a journey ever since. And you've done an incredible job of making this awesome analogy that is not only just an analogy, but it is a factual. So I want to thank you so much. We look forward to Dr. Alexander. Let's keep him in mind strongly because we really need this person. Peggy Ujiri, God bless you for recommending him. She really pushed you and said, this is a great guy. You must have him on. All the people here are always supporting Dr. Reverend Parker, Wayne Stoner. Welcome, Jennifer Trench. I've never seen Arlene, haven't seen you in a long while. Of course, Reverend Franklin, he didn't say anything, but we'll catch him next time. And all Arcadio Okuna, God bless you. We haven't seen you in a while. John Lowen and all the others who are here. John Healy, God bless you as well. Want to thank you again, Cleus Young, or Cleus Glory Young. God bless you, man. Thank you so much for your wonderful and awesome and brilliant, if you will, presentation. See you next week.
Thank you. God bless you.
And remember, according to Philippians 4, do all things in moderation.
See, right? Amen. Thank you so much, and thank
Yes,
you,
yes.
Peggy, for really entrusting me to be here. I'm here wherever I could help out with. That's what I want to do. Like, that's my life. Like, I've accomplished a lot of other things. It's just now, hey, how could you make the world a better place with like nothing up your sleeve? You just want to go out there and do good so the world could see what the example of God is. Like, we're not here to, oh, I want to, oh, and be mindful because what I've done, I've studied it, and it's like, hey, how do you build a new type?
Mr. Easy, you have Santa?
So that's been my dream now, to build a new type of airport and then bring it back to that godly concept. They have taken it and made it into what you would say a secular opportunity to make money. So for me, I've studied it, understood it, and I'm actually back in school right now to learn how to create a whole new type of airport so we can get people to a whole new destination.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you for your ingenuity, and your diligence as well.
Yes.
Amen. All right. God bless you.
God
See you
bless.
next week. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Very
Thank you,
insightful.
Clea.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
All right. Take care until we meet again.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
Mr. Young, you're a great ambassador of goodness.
Thank
Blessings
you.
to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Happy trails.
Yep.
Together, we will do it.